my friends, my name is AJ and welcome back to my book nook. Today I am very excited because we are going to be talking about a pirate novel. That's right, a pirate novel. I'm talking about a different pirate than just Nikolai Lantsov today. That's a special treat for all of you. Or maybe it isn't. But today we are going to be talking about Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. This book is really good. I absolutely loved it. I had heard a little bit about it online, but really not that much. I didn't really know what the plot was. I really didn't know much about it at all. And I really enjoyed it. But I mean, I think I kind of expected to because it's a pirate novel. Who isn't gonna love a pirate novel? I think everyone would. So The Daughter of the Pirate King is a story of a girl named Alosa, who is the daughter of the Pirate King. You probably could have figured that part out on your own. Alosa has been sent on a mission by her father to retrieve something belonging to one of the other pirate lords, and she is sent to go undercover on his ship as a prisoner to try and find it. However, her time there becomes more and more difficult as she struggles to find what she's looking for and begins to fall for the handsome first mate Raiden. If that summary was anything to go off of, this book is really more of a romance than it is an action book. That's the first thing I'm gonna say. I wasn't really aware of that going into it, and I kind of wish I had, because it would have let me form sort of the mindset that is needed for going into stories like that. It's definitely more so focused on Alosa and Raiden's relationship than it is Alosa's really cool pirating adventures. And she does have those pirating adventures. I love Alosa. Let me get this right out of the way. I really like both of those characters. Alosa is a really cool character. She's super sarcastic, she's super fun, she's definitely very proud and definitely thinks very highly of herself, which is always nice to see. You all know how much I love characters like that, and it's really nice to see a woman character like that. Just saying. But because of that, I think that we kind of have some contradictions between what Alosa says about herself and what we see in the novel. Alosa thinks of herself as so clever, she could never be outwitted, she's always 3 steps ahead of everyone, and yet she tends to get outsmarted quite a bit, and she tends to not think of where this map could be hidden that she's looking for. I didn't actually see that as a problem. A lot of people, I think, see that as a plot hole. I've seen some complaints online before of that. I don't think that was a problem. In fact, I think it was the opposite of a problem. It shows that she thinks so highly of herself that she has become blind to the realities. She's overestimating her own ability and underestimating her enemies. And I think that it was really cool way to show that and to make her almost somewhat of an unreliable narrator. Not so unreliable in that you don't know what's true in these stories and what's not, but in that she will make claims of like, oh, I could take, 5 men in a fight, and it's like, yeah, okay, sure. I like that. I really like that we have this character who's interesting and has depth like that. She thinks very highly of herself, but doesn't always have the skills to back it up. Not that she doesn't have the skills to back it up. She definitely does at certain points. The very first chapter absolutely pulled me in because we see her fighting. We see her absolutely ruthless, willing to kill the men on the other crew, willing to let people on her own crew die to prove a point, as well as being just a really skilled fighter and manipulator. I thought that that was awesome, and I wanted to see more of her like that. But we didn't get to see that as often as I would have liked. Most of the novel is spent with Alosa trapped in the brig of the Nightfarer, which is the ship that she is the prisoner on. I didn't mind that she was stuck in there. I think it allowed for more creative modes of manipulation to be displayed through her abilities. But I do wish we had gotten to see more of her fighting, more of her pirating. We got to see a little bit more of it at the end. We got to see that ruthlessness again. However, I just really wish we could have seen more of it and had less focus on the romance. Speaking of the romance, let's talk a little bit about Ryden. I really, really like Ryden. He's, again, a very sarcastic, very proud, oftentimes very cutthroat pirate, but he definitely has a softer side to him, which comes out when he's around Alosa. And he definitely, you know, wants people to be treated fairly. I personally think that he fell for Alosa too fast, too quickly, and too hard. That's really my main complaint with Ryden. I like Ryden as a character a lot. I do. I think, again, we have that very conflicting character where he thinks of himself as a good person, but a lot of times he does things that are not very good. And I feel like I would have liked to see him torn a little bit more of, she's a prisoner, he knows that she's up to something, but he doesn't know what. And so he falls for her very quickly. It seems like only a couple chapters in, he's already very caring about her and he's already looking out for her. And we know that it's not fully an act that he's putting on as you read through the novel. And you know that it's not fully an act because when he thinks he's out of earshot of her, he begins admonishing himself for being like, oh, what are you doing? Like, clearly it's not just an act. Maybe it might have been a little bit, but it wasn't mostly. And I think that that's a really big problem, is that I don't think it would have made sense for him to use it as an act because she didn't have any interest in him. At least that's what it seemed like. It's a perfect setup for an enemies to lovers story. You know, he's an opposing ship and she's the prisoner on that ship and they fall for each other. A great setup for an enemies to lovers story. I just felt like it moved too fast. It didn't have that tension between them. She immediately had feelings for him. She immediately liked being around him, and I would have liked to see that slowly grow rather than as quickly as it happened. This is what I would call a summer read. I refer to summer reads as books that are just a little bit lighter and easier and don't require much thought. Because those are the kinds of books you like to read in the summer. It's very fun, they're very easy, you can pick them up and read them in the sunlight, it's whatever. This book does not have a lot of extensive world building. I don't always think that that's necessarily a problem. I think that it's fine. It has the amount of world building that it needs, but it is just something that if you're looking for this like really creative, in-depth world of magic and pirates and everything like that, you're not gonna get that. You have very loosely, there's these pirate lords. This one of them has declared himself the pirate king. Most of it takes place on one ship, so you don't really get a lot of chances for world building. And I honestly think that that's okay. I don't think every single novel needs to be a high fantasy novel with complex lore, background, and its own language made for it. But I do think that you have to go into these kinds of books knowing that, because if you're expecting this big elaborate fantasy world, you're gonna be let down. But if you go into it knowing that's not the kind of book that I'm here for, then you're gonna be able to enjoy it and appreciate it for what it is. Okay, so now I do want to talk about something that is a massive spoiler to the novel. So if you have not read the novel, I will leave timestamps down for you to skip to my final thoughts below, but the rest of you can stick around. May the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the time is done, we'll take our leave and go. That was deeper than I thought I could go. Alright, so if you're still here, I'm going to assume that you are okay with spoilers and I am no longer responsible for what you hear. I want to talk about the reveal of Alosa having siren powers. I think that that was led up to very, very well. I think that it could have been a very out of the blue, jarring experience, but it was led up to quite well. In fact, I actually knew that this was coming before we even got to this point. I knew pretty early on, actually. I was like, oh, I bet she's a siren. And I was right. And I think that is a sign of a good plot twist. A good plot twist should have clues for you to see. It shouldn't be so out of the blue that it just seems out of place. That's not a good plot twist. That's just you trying to be different for the sake of being different. I thought it was handled really well. I think that the use of her being experimented on by Vorden is an excellent way to show the extent of her powers to the readers. You know, when you have a magic system like that, it can often be difficult to figure out how you're going to show your readers how it all works. So by having a person experimenting on her and trying to figure out all her powers and itemize them into this list, it helps the readers as well. And the second book in this series is called Daughter of the Siren Queen, and I have to assume that it will focus more on her siren abilities. Now, I do wish we were going to be focusing more on her pirate abilities as well. I would like to see more of that, but I have to assume we're going to be thinking a little bit more about that. And so having that at the end of really giving all of the readers a crash course, it really helps to make us understand, so when we're going into the next novel, we'll have a full understanding of the world and we'll have a full understanding of her powers. Alright, so welcome back, my non-spoiler people. What are my final thoughts? I have to say, I'm a big pirate story lover, and this definitely was an excellent example of one. I do wish that I had known going into it that it was more of a romance than a adventure novel, but it's still pretty good. You know, even if you're not a huge romance person, I think that you'll still like it. I do wish we had had a little bit more time to see Alosa and her element as a pirate, but I'm sure that we'll get to see more of that in the second book as well. I think that Alosa and Raiden are both really interesting because they both sort of reflect the same thing. They think one thing about themselves, they think very highly of themselves, but then their actions show that they're not as amazing as they both think they are. And I think that that makes them very complex and interesting. Overall, if you're looking for a easy, fun pirate novel, I would highly recommend this book. But that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to stick around and get notified when my next video comes out. And let me know in the comments below, have you read Daughter of the Pirate King, and did you have the same opinions as to me? And do you have any other suggestions for piratey books that you'd like me to review? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation with all of you, but that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see all of you lovely people in the next video. Bye!